Normally, when a video game is released that sucks, people are quick to jump on it and rip it to shreds. But rare times, sometimes a game comes out that's so bad and so insanely brain dead that you can't help but have fun with it. What's up, guys? Chaos here. Welcome to Chaos Top 10s. Today, we're going to be revisiting 10 video games that were so bad they were actually good. This is going to be a list of games that by no means were actually good, but because of their flaws, they actually ended up being pretty fun to play around with in one way or another. And tell me the first game that comes to your mind that fits in this category in the comment section. Drop a like, and let's get into it. At number 10, we're starting off with a game called ENVIROBEAR. ENVIROBEAR 2000, and this is an indie game from 2009 where you played as a bear, obviously, trying to fatten up before winter hibernation. Pretty cool concept, but instead of going out and hunting like a normal bear would, you're driving around a car, smashing into people, making it kind of a vehicular combat game in the same style as Carmageddon. The controls are intentionally complicated and unhelpful to make the game extra difficult and pretty outlandish. Overall, it's an awful structured game, but I think that's the whole point of it. ENVIROBEAR 2000 knows it's crappy and it totally embraces that. In fact, it was popular enough to get a port to the iOS and the Android stores a little while after it was released. At number 9, and this sounds awesome, The Simpsons Wrestling. And we have a game here that I put this on a lot of worst games lists, and I stand by that. However, The Simpsons Wrestling definitely belongs on a list like this when you're looking back at it. Now, this was made during a time in gaming history when companies didn't really know what to do with the new 3D tech, and they were just throwing anything at the wall with a recognizable brand on it, and one of those turds that came out was The Simpsons Wrestling. It was buggy, it was unbalanced, it was unfunny, and often regarded as one of the worst games ever made. But, my friends, getting a few of your friends together and just beating the crap out of each other while listening to various one-liners from Simpsons characters, well, that's pretty awesome. The actual game may be complete garbage, but the sheer stupidity of all of it actually gave it a little bit of charm. Unfortunately, that same charm is absent from a lot of the other bad Simpsons games. I'm running a huge Fortnite 15,000 V-Bucks giveaway the entire month. All you have to do to enter is like this video, be subscribed to the channel, turn on your notifications, and leave me a comment why you want to win with your Twitter handle attached. The winner will be picked at the end of the month. At number 8, we have Earth Defense Force 2017. This is basically a franchise that survives off being so bad, it's good. Despite the fact there have been tons of games in the series, it never seems to be anything better than decent, and EDF 2017 is one of the worst of the bunch in terms of its game design, but also one of the craziest in terms of its story and its content, which is what gets it a spot on today's list. This game is a sci-fi third-person shooter released back in 2006, and it takes place in the year 2013. So needless to say, the game, it's all over the place. You played as a team called the EDF tasked with fighting off an army of giant ants from space in order to save the planet. Now, a concept this wild and out there, it's pretty much impossible for it not to be entertaining, despite the fact that the gameplay is pretty bad and the voice acting is atrocious. If you're looking for a super campy and stupid sci-fi shooter, Earth Defense Force 2017 may be your cup of tea. At number 7, we have a game called Deadly Premonition, and this is a weird one. It's a survival horror game released in 2010 where you played as an FBI agent investigating various murders. It got very mixed reception, and it seemed people either loved it or they hated it due to its bizarre structure and storytelling, but even at its worst, it was still a pretty entertaining game. Even those who hated Deadly Premonition cannot deny that the bad parts of the game carry that special quality of being so bad they were actually good. And if you're a fan of unconventional survival horror games, I can't believe I'm saying this, I actually recommend checking this game out. Now, our number 6 spot, it has such a great name, it has to be a great game. The Amazing Frog. You guys ever wonder what a frog would do if it were given super jumps and parkour abilities? No? Well, here's Amazing Frog anyways. Released on Steam in November of 2014, this game describes itself as a hardcore parkour game, open world buffet of bonkers, physics, sandbox, gameplay. And that's actually a pretty solid description if you ask me. You played as a frog, running around a 20-kilometer open world and pretty much just doing whatever you want with parkour abilities in a physics engine that just refuses to behave itself or help you in any way, resulting in some pretty hilarious gameplay. This is another game that is totally aware of how bad it is, and it completely embraces that in order to go for a game that actually ends up being more fun than actually good. cracking into the top 5, and before you rip me apart in the comments, let me explain why I did this, okay? Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Now, the campaign of Modern Warfare 2 is great, and the Spec Ops mode was very fun, but if we're being totally honest, the multiplayer is pretty bad from a design standpoint. Yes, the maps were well designed, and there's tons of customization options for classes, but if you played this game when it came out, you know exactly why it's on here. You really, really do. Modern Warfare 2 was completely busted upon release due to the abundance of hacked lobbies, the ridiculous Akimbo Model 1887s, one-man army noob tubes, the list goes on and on. Commando lunging for the first few weeks of this lifespan of the game. Modern Warfare 2 was completely broken, and it was fun because of it. Also, if we're being totally honest with each other, even after the game was fixed of its bugs and glitchiness, there was still a ton of flaws. One-man army is still completely overpowered as a perk, and there are so many things in the game that are way too easy to exploit, or some things that just straight up don't work, like the red dot sights and the suppressors on certain guns. But with all that being said, Modern Warfare 2 is one of the most beloved multiplayer games of all time because it was so busted that everyone just had fun with it. So it gets the number 5 spot today. At number 4, Darkest of Days. Now, this is a game that I've mentioned a few times on negative lists before, but I think it belongs here as well. Darkest of Days is a first-person shooter that had a pretty interesting concept, but unfortunately, it was a little too ambitious for the team to do it correctly. You played as a time-traveling soldier using modern and futuristic weaponry and historical conflicts like World War II, the Civil War, and even ancient Rome. The gameplay was criticized for being repetitive and mediocre at best, but there is something fun and funny about walking into the American Civil War with a machine gun and a rocket launcher. Now, the insane differences of tones and weaponry just makes it, the only word I can really come up with is wacky. It's not historically accurate by any means. At number 3, and you knew it was going to be on here, South Park, 1998 South Park. Now, South Park games are pretty great now thanks to the new RPG series that started with the Stick of Truth, but that wasn't always the case. South Park video games started with a 1998 first-person shooter simply called South Park. The game was built on the Quake engine and originally started off on a good foot, but ended up hitting roadblock after roadblock during its development, resulting in a finished product that was pretty buggy, unpolished, and it was kind of ugly. However, while the single-player experience may have been crappy, South Park 1998 also came with a local multiplayer mode that allowed you to bring your friends into the game as various South Park characters while you run around the town and pelt each other with snowballs and other improvised weapons. So, while the single-player may suck, the multiplayer was actually pretty fun, especially if you're a fan of the show. At number 2, and I bet a lot of you have never heard of this game. You ever heard of a cricket game? How bad can a cricket game be? Well, pretty bad, as it turns out. Ashes Cricket 2013. Now, thankfully, this game is just the right kind of bad that it puts a smile on your face as you play it. It launched in November of 2013 for PC as a cricket game with a bunch of officially and unofficially licensed teams to play, and there were console ports planned to launch a few months after the PC's release. But all the console ports were canceled due to the horrible reception of the game, and it was eventually pulled from Steam as well, with full refunds given to everybody who bought it. Aside from having awful graphics and a very choppy frame rate, the game was buggier than any sports game I've ever seen, resulting in hilarious moments during gameplay where players would just ragdoll on the field for no reason or freeze in place before suddenly springing back to life without warning. Now, it's pretty hard to find a download of Ashes Cricket 2013 now, since it's been off the market for so long, but you should definitely check out some videos of it because it's pretty amazing. And if you've actually played this game, let me know. And at number 1 today, we are going with Blood and Bacon, a horde mode style co-op FPS that is so intentionally and hilariously broken that it takes the number 1 spot. You run around with some buddies in a giant arena style level while gunning down hundreds and hundreds of monsters and zombies in gory fashion with ridiculously overpowered and poorly animated weapons, making it both extremely satisfying and hilarious due to how crappy everything actually looks. Now, from a design standpoint, Blood and Bacon, awesome name, is pretty bad, but like other games on this list, I think that's the whole point. The game isn't trying to be good, it's just trying to be over the top and fun, and it actually pulled that formula off with flying colors, and I think it deserves the number 1 spot today. And there you have it, my friends. Those are 10 video games that were so bad that they were actually good. Let me know if you've played any of this on this list, and let me know one that didn't make it that definitely would have fit into this category. If you guys enjoyed this video, take a second, drop a like, subscribe, turn on those notifications so you actually get notified when a new video goes up. I do a gaming top 10 almost every single night. Hopefully you guys did enjoy, and I'll see you soon.